Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Joining me on the program, Brian, and of course, Stephanie A. Smith, who is already thinking about the next thing she's not going to say. There's only one thing people are talking about in the wide, wide world of Northeast Ohio sports. And it's like, oh, should the Browns go for J.J. Watt? Nah, that's why I basically, and whenever I do something that's overstated, should the Browns, it's just like if somebody's stupid, if a stupid person says, no, they don't say, I don't know. No. So, the Browns go after, J.J. Watt. All right. And I have an easy answer to this question, although it may take a couple of minutes to explain. And I will.
The short answer is no.
Right. Bear with me on this. I'm 63, going to be 64 in May. All right. I used to be a tennis player who hit a 105-mile-an-hour serve. I used to have a lot of strength, a lot of explosion. And these days, no, with a bad back and with an artificial knee, and I can't play the same way. But I can honestly tell you that every time, and Rox will back me on this, whenever I go out onto the tennis court, I never go out to do anything but win. And I never do anything but try to win. All right? It is singularly the most important part of athletics is the will to win. You can't replace that with anything else. In my case, I couldn't get my regular knee back and I couldn't get my spine back. So I went to equipment. So I've changed tennis rackets. So now I've gone up to a stiffer racket that will give me a little more pop because I can't swing and torque like I used to because of my back. So I have a stiffer framed racket that gives me a little more velocity when I hit it. I also have weighted it head light so that there's less weight in the head of the racket than there is in the handle. So I can control the ball and get all the cross court angles I need to do so I can move my opponents. But my mind is always in the game trying to figure out one step ahead. If my body is decaying a little bit, how do I get ahead? And how do I still be competitive on a tennis court? That's the will to win. Now, we're going to take that and move over to football. Are you in it to win it? New York Jets are not in it to win it. The Jaguars are not in it to win it. The Washington football team isn't in it to win it. And certainly now the Houston Texans aren't in it to win it. And neither were the Cleveland Browns in it to win it. Let's go at it from that perspective. Why don't you ask Joe Thomas why Deshaun Watson wants to leave Houston? He didn't, and he never had glory. The chance at the brass ring, you only get it once in a blue moon if you get it at all. And to be talked out of it by bad management and bad decisions on every level, that really sucks. And the Cleveland Browns were mired in that for decade after decade. We couldn't find a head coach. We couldn't find an offensive coordinator. We couldn't find a defensive coordinator. We couldn't find a quarterback. We couldn't find running backs. And I was going to say something that is going to absolutely make people go.
At least not for more than one season.
Yeah. And people are going to look at me like, have you lost your mind? You know what the big splash was? The big splash was not Kevin Stefanski as head coach, by the way. It was OBJ. We got OBJ. We didn't even fucking need OBJ to get to the second round of the playoffs. We didn't even need him. That was a luxury. And we'll have him back in whatever condition he's in next year. But that was a luxury. We didn't need that. What we are right now is a fringe contender. All right. And that's by the grace of all the New York Jets, the Houston Texans, the Washington football teams, and all the teams that are sub-mediocre. We are a fringe contender. That means that there are actually odds on the Cleveland Browns to be in the Super Bowl. Not good odds, but there are odds. We're, as they say, in the conversation. Okay? That means we're in a large waiting room with a bunch of other people who have aspirations and hopes and are closer than other teams are. And now I'm going to switch gears and say that the Cleveland Indians are not in it to win it. We all know that because every time we had the perfect 5 starting pitchers, we never got an outfielder that could hit for power. We never got a third baseman who could hit for power. We never did anything to make our teams better on the offensive side of the ball. We just kept fucking around with Greg Allens and people who were minor league guys, Bradley Zimmers, guys who never amounted to anything. They're not in it to win it.
Jason Kipnis.
Yep. And we held on to those types of people forever. But if you're not in it to win it, then it doesn't matter. You're going to find a way to fuck up. The Cleveland Browns find themselves at a junction. There's a fork in the road, and the Browns can go left or the Browns can go right. And the reason is because we're fringe contenders, and we're fringe contenders because we only have half a football team. And I'm going to make this real easy for people so you don't go running around the internet to get 47 opinions on this. We have a defensive coordinator who only wants to play 2 linebackers at a time. 4-2-5 defense. Okay? 4-man front, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs / safeties. Yet we only have 1 defensive back, cornerback. We have in Ronnie Harrison, a guy that we hope if he's healthy can play some safety for us. And we got nothing else. All right? And the linebackers don't even matter to Joe Woods because there's only 2 of them. And we don't have any at that position, any hoo-ha. So what do you need to do in the draft? Come on, this isn't rocket science, folks. You got to get secondary guys. You got to get guys who can play in the defensive secondary because you don't got any. Your defensive coordinator is going to put 5 of them on the field at one time. Now, here's the other problem. You got no middle linebacker. You got 2 linebackers on the field. You saw what happened when the Browns were unable to achieve any pass rush against teams. They made average quarterbacks look a whole damn sight better than they were. And we had no secondary guys to shut down the offense that was coming up against us. We had to score 35 to 40 points in games to win some of them. That was the only way we got the wins that we needed to get into the playoffs. So tell me this. If you're going out on the field at a 4-2-5 configuration because you're Joe Woods and that's what you do, don't you think you need a pass rush? Hello, McFly! This isn't rocket science, folks. Now, you got the 26th pick. Do you think you're going to get God's gift to pass rushes at 26? No. Now, at 26, can you get a defensive back? Yes. You better find the best damn one that's there, the best coverage guy that's on the board at 26, or move up to get him. You better fucking do it. Now, you can sit there and hope that Grant Delpit's going to amount to something, but there's no guarantee there, or that Greedy Williams will even make it back out on a football field. There's no guarantee to that. Those will be pleasant if come maybes. What we have to do now is fill in the holes that we have. But we can't fill the pass rushing hole at 26. And even if we move up to get the good cornerback, it would take way more to get the edge rusher. Not going to happen in the draft. It has to come through free agency. It has to come to players who were released. So I'm going to tell you this. Everybody will sit there and say, well, he's 32 years old, Mr. Moohead, and he's only played 24 of the last 48 games he was eligible to play in because of injury. And he's not the player that he was 5-6 years ago. And you know how I will answer you? I will say yes, but we know he has the skill set. We know he has the ability to do it. And anybody we draft 26 or lower, we don't know that about. That's A. B, he was stuck with a losing organization. He had nowhere to go, and it became so debilitating to his game that you can't tell me he was inspired to hit the football field for the Houston Texans. That wasn't the case for him at all. You have Myles Garrett on one side who needs an anchor on the other side. He doesn't have to be what he was 5 or 6 years ago. Can he stay healthy? I don't know. No. I don't have a crystal ball. But I can tell you this, with all the middling talent that is emerging that the Browns have to choose from defensive ends, from guys who are leaving the Cincinnati Bengals, Lawson, to guys who had one decent year, they're all a bunch of Carl Nassibs, folks. Don't you get it? The reason that the teams are in the position that they're in and that the Browns are fringe contenders is that they have even less than we do. We've got a core of 25-year-old men, and that core, whether it's on the offensive line, whether it's running backs, whether it's quarterbacks, whether it's some of our wide receivers, that should make you good for 6 to 8 years, goddammit, if you don't fuck up. Should we re-sign Baker? I mean, would you get serious? You got a core of 25-year-old players. You've got to get better now. You have to develop a pass rush now. Now, you can draft defensive ends lower in the draft, and maybe having a J.J. Watt and a Myles Garrett, they will learn something, and they will learn extensive techniques of what it is to play in the NFL. But they're not coming off a college campus with that skill set. No way. And if you don't get J.J. Watt, you know what's going to happen? The same thing that always happens to the Cleveland Browns. They're not in it to win it. You let him go someplace else. He said he wants to play for a contender. We'll see if that's the case. The Browns are legitimately in the conversation with him. It would mean that we could put more pressure on quarterbacks. Let me explain in plain English why that's important. Let's take Lamar Jackson out of the conversation because he's Superman who can shit his pants and come out and beat the Browns, okay? We're going to move away from that. And we're going to say Ben Roethlisberger just lost his center who snapped the ball over his head, thank you. Last gracious act that he did for the Cleveland Browns. And Ben Roethlisberger is 1 year away from just saying, forget this shit. And he's old and he's washed up. Okay? You want to put pressure on Ben, you got to get pass rushers in there. You play him twice in the year. If you sweep Pittsburgh and you sweep Cincinnati, who has Joe Burrow, who's less maneuverable, who has a questionable, not yet built offensive line, you could win 4 games in your division. 4. With that skill set. I'm not talking about J.J. Watt being what he was 6, 7 years ago. I'm talking about what he can do now. He still had one of the highest ratings as a pass rusher in the league when he played. And don't say, well, we can't afford to waste money on a guy who's going to be hurt. What do you think Olivier Vernon was? And he ended up ripping his knee out. It was a question mark. He got 4 sacks in one game. So he ended up with like 9 or 10 sacks or whatever. But he missed most of the season. Don't tell me about veterans who get injured. The Browns have had them for the last 30 fucking years. Don't tell me about it. What I can tell you is this. If you leave him on the board and you let somebody else grab him, it may not be in their providence to get him. He may want to play with his brothers in Pittsburgh and go down the shitter there. I don't know. But what I know is you have to make a robust play for this guy because you could beat Cincinnati twice. You can beat Pittsburgh twice. Split with the Ravens, and you're 5-1 in your division. And that damn well by itself will take you to the playoffs again. And that's the only thing we're trying to do. Once you get to the playoffs, the second season begins, and you're going to need all the J.J. Watts and people with experience that you can possibly summon at that point and hope that the breaks go your way and that the Kansas City Chiefs don't show up again. But
Which they will.
yeah, but they will. But, all the excuses in the world about why a 32-year-old man is a bad investment. Look, you know what bad is. Bad is what we have been. And we're right at that fork in the road. And you've got to strengthen the weakness in the team. I would say the offense proved as the season progressed that it was good enough to beat a lot of people. And that was without OBJ and with a perpetually dinged up Landry. And then with guys like DVP and Harrison Bryant and Hooper and, Richard
DPJ.
DJP.
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Donovan Jones people. My people, my people. Yeah. That's the deal. We got no names, but those no names were good enough to win in the system that we were put in was perfect for us. We have great running backs. We have great offensive linemen who create holes for the running backs. Couldn't be better.
And we have one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL.
Right. Glaring differences between the offensive and defensive side of the ball. This opportunity isn't going to come up again. You go for it. If you were willing to put your money on Odell Beckham Jr., the prima donna that he is, thinking that was going to be the saving grace, you might as well still be applauding Art Modell for getting Andre Rison. Oh, I don't have any money left. Hey, Rocky, I'm going to pull a rabbit out of my hat. Again? Yes. So there you have it. Yes, get J.J. Watt. Your time to win is now. And if you don't do it, you want to know what happens? Why don't you ask J.J. Watt what it's like watching an organization become unraveled? Why don't you ask these players who are begging to get out of both New York teams? And now that they're hiring, it's so nice to see Urban Meyer make such a great decision for his strength coach right off the bat. They got to understand they can't bully professional athletes. And if Urban Meyer thinks he's going to bring some guy in from Iowa who can bully these people in the NFL, he got another thing coming. Not in it to win it. This is your opportunity to show. Players are not going to stick around in a losing organization. That's what's happened to the Browns for years. This is our chance to attract real people and become a 6 to 8 year contender. That's what this is. That's what the fork in the road is. So there is no question in my mind that you got to make a very robust play for J.J. Watt. You have a difference of opinion, Brian?
Well, it's going to depend on who else is available. Because if it's a choice between going after a Bud Dupree, I would rather overpay for a Bud Dupree than get saddled with J.J. Watt, who's really at the very, very tail end of his career.
But Bud Dupree is a linebacker in a 2-linebacker set that he's never played before, and he was spending more time in the backfield for Pittsburgh than he was in the middle of the field. What makes you think he would do or could do that?
He's still one of the best pass rushers in the game. There's no reason why you couldn't play him at end.
Yeah, if you're running a pass rushing scheme that blitzes linebackers. But I mean, again, what I do know is this: in a 4-man set, I know what J.J. Watt can do. I don't know what Bud Dupree can do outside of Pittsburgh's defensive scheme, and certainly we're not playing that scheme in Cleveland. And yes, he's younger body. There ain't no doubt about that. But you know how it goes. What linebacker hasn't looked twice as good as they are with Pittsburgh? Name me one.
Isn't TJ Watt a linebacker?
No.
Who are their fucking linebackers?
I'm just saying, what guy ever left Pittsburgh and got better from when they left Pittsburgh who played the linebacker position? They brought people.
The
in.
only one that was well, Kevin Green had 16 sacks with the Rams, but that's going the other way. The only one that I can think of would be Harrison.
I mean, and he made his bones with the Steelers. The fact of the matter
And
is,
he went back to the Steelers like Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark was with the I know he's a defensive back or a safety, but he was with the Cardinals and wasn't really that good. But in the scheme that the Steelers ran, he was, basically a Pro Bowler.
they released JJ. They're not talking about trading JJ. They outrighted him. They granted his release. He's out of there. You have to negotiate with him on a contract, and you're going to have to pay him some money. But the fact of the matter is that if he wants to play for a contender, the pickings might be a little slim. And he's got to.
But he wouldn't. Well, and he's probably going to demand at least $20 million.
He's well within his rights to, and if you're unwilling to pay, then you're unwilling to pay. But what I'm saying is you were willing to pay OBJ and you lost a full season of him with a ripped out knee and you didn't even need him to win. I'm saying with the glaring deficiencies we have on the defensive side of the ball, we need ballers. We need players. And it's never an easy decision to make, because whenever you make a decision, you're opening yourself up to the same shit, which is, well, that was a bad move. And, so the analytics of the situation may take over and they'll take a look at that $20 million figure and say, no, we can't do it because it doesn't work on the analytics board. And so help me God, if J.J. Watt goes over and has 14 sacks for a team he plays for that gets into the playoffs, and the Browns are sitting here playing with themselves again with Miles, I'm out of breath, Garrett, and nobody else on the defensive line, it's going to be an ugly sight. You want to see what will make the Browns offense collapse. That's sitting and watching the defense give up the lead every time they put points on the board. That is what will most likely break Baker Mayfield's spirit. And that's, what we're hearing coming from quarterbacks now in the league. Russell Wilson came right out and said it. I'm getting hit too much. Everybody thinks that the goddamn Seattle Seahawks offense is just completely taken care of because we got Russell Wilson. They're breaking his balls, man. He's crippling up. They're not getting him the help that he needs. Players are getting sick of this shit. Well, we're doing analytics and we're conserving funds. And meanwhile, CTE is moving into the apartment next door and is soon going to move in to Russell Wilson's apartment. Or compartment.
Into the garbage chute, Flyboy.
Yeah. So more and more players are, seeing. I mean, does Deshaun Watson have to get sacked as much as he gets sacked? No, he does not. Could his career last longer? Yes, it could. And does he have to play for people who are not trying to win? No, he does not. He does for a while because he signed a contract in 2019. J.J. Watt can play wherever he wants to play. And if it's all about the money, then it's all about the money. Then shut the fuck up and don't talk about contenders. Then you'll know what we were dealing with. If he ends up going to a team that pays him the $20 million and they're not even a legitimate contender, you're going to know it was about money. Or if he goes to Pittsburgh so he can be with his brothers, then it was family. So he can become the fourth member of Sister Sledge. Good for him. I'm saying that if it's a matter of really busting your ass and wanting to play on a team on the rise, there's an opportunity in Cleveland, and Cleveland's got to be in the game to get him. These are a lot of ifs, but it's really not hard. It's not hard to figure this shit out because you're not going to find a defensive end. You're not going to find a pass rusher off of these lists of people that I'm reading through. It's just these are a bunch of people who are a bunch of mediocre journeymen, or they're younger guys who are going to be mediocre journeymen. It's why the pass rushers like Chase Young come off the board so quick, man. It's a rare breed. That's why he's probably going to get 20 million. You're right, Brian. So that's what I have to say. And I hope the Browns are serious and not going to just analytic their way out of this whole thing. I wanted, before moving away from, because there's plenty of things besides JJ Watt. The second I saw that Marty Schottenheimer went into a hospice, the Gleam died, and then Marty shortly thereafter. An unfortunate circumstance. We know all too well the disease that he suffered from, and I can tell you that I received a call 2 weeks before my mother passed away. And they said she's in the absolute final stage. And so what people don't understand, and I every chance that I can, I want to educate people about Alzheimer's disease, because it's a horrible disease. It's why I have a problem with the NFL and the CTE protocols, or lack thereof, because it's a horrible way to die. People think, how do you die from Alzheimer's disease? If it's decaying your brain, basically, and it's knocking out the connectors in your brain, how does that just kill you? How come you don't just become a vegetable? And the answer is because your brain controls many body functions, and one of them is swallowing. That's right. You start choking on your own spit. People don't want to hear this shit. Nobody, people want to see Pat Summitt Head being glorified while she can still kind of walk and talk. But when you see somebody at the end of Alzheimer's disease, no. The reason Marty went into hospice is nobody couldn't swallow. I can guarantee you he was first diagnosed when he was 70 years of age, which means he had it when he was 69, which means 8 years. And that's how long it took my mom to succumb to the disease. That's the cycle. 8 to 9 years and you're gone. And at the end, you can't swallow. Not I don't mean whole food. I mean your own fucking spit. You choke. Everything, your bodily system collapses because your brain, the central brain, can't control any of the body functions because it's in absentia.
Well, and even worse than that, you become a prisoner in your own body because you completely have no idea who you are, who anybody. You lose all sense of self.
Yeah, I mean, there's no remembrances of any
and
sort.
And it destroys that part of it. Destroys the family as much as it hurts the person suffering.
No question. I mean, the thing about Alzheimer's that people don't understand is more sympathy toward the people who are going to survive it, because the person who's going through it probably doesn't realize everything, but the people who love that person, they feel it and double. Marty Schottenheimer, for all the criticism he took in Cleveland for being overly conservative or whatever, if you ask me, and who Kevin Stefanski reminds me of, it's not Sam Bertigliano. When we made it into the playoffs, it was Marty Schottenheimer, because he is a very systematic coach. Sam was more of what they called the riverboat gambler. He was more the guy who was offensively inclined and really believed in his players in a way that he gave the offense the opportunity to win games outright. Marty was just the opposite. He was a guy who believed that his defense could make that final stand. It never happened for the Browns. It collapsed in pretty fatal fashion against the Broncos. But the last time that we really had hope as an organization was when Marty Schottenheimer was the coach of the Cleveland Browns, and before him, Sam Bertigliano. There was no hope when Bill Belichick was the coach. There hasn't been hope in the Cleveland Browns in the last 35 years or 30 years. 30 years.
And I can't remember the guy that went 10-5-1 who replaced Marty. That was really the last hurrah. Bud
Carson, when we beat the Steelers.
Bud Carson.
Yeah.
And went out to Denver with the mummified hand of Bernie Kosar.
Yeah, and a key, no, Alzheimer's is a form of dementia. Dementia is like the big tent, and there are many types of dementia within that tent. And like Lewy body syndrome, which is what Robin Williams, the comedian, died of, is a form of dementia in which he had visual disruptions. He believed when he was walking in his bedroom that there was a hole in the middle of the room that he would fall into. So there is perceptual dementia. Alzheimer's is a progressive form of dementia that is considered, and I can't say one is crueler than the other. I think that Robin Williams knew damn well what he did when he hung himself, because he did it in a very technically proficient way. I think that losing your marbles is not an easy thing. And for Robin Williams, it was a series of things that caused depression and the dementia that he suffered from. But if you look up dementia, there's many different types. Alzheimer's is just one of them. But I think
and here again, his addictions probably helped speed that process along.
Right. And, and you're right, Rick.
Drugs are bad, kids. So don't be bad. Okay.
Marty was the only coach to have 200 NFL wins. He had successful winning seasons in Cleveland, in Kansas City, and in San Diego, and he made playoffs in all three destinations. He was a solid,
not so much in Washington,
but a solid NFL coach and a person who really, the players who played for him believed in him and he believed in them. He was a very different kind of character than Sam Rutigliano. But like I say, look how long it's been since the Cleveland Browns had a systematic coach, and now we do again. And again, it frustrated me. And the reason I started thinking about this was because of the 4th and 9 we didn't go for in a game that we needed to go for it. It reminded me a lot of Marty Schottenheimer. Well, we'll give the defense one last shot. And I'm like, hey, what? It's like we watched
sprinting backwards.
Yeah, we watched the whole season. We knew that the defense couldn't get the stop when they needed to. I would have liked to have seen the offense be given the opportunity, but we made it to the second round of the playoffs. So that's pretty damn good. And it does remind me of Marty Schottenheimer. And I feel terrible that, even the day that they gave him and honored him in the stadium, he didn't know exactly what it was all about. He was already bewildered at that point. It's a long, hard road.
Yeah, and the day that Marty was, they made the announcement that Marty had passed away. They had Bernie Kosar on Cleveland Browns Daily, and he was talking about that, standing at the 50-yard line, helping Marty finish the last autograph, signing his name.
Yeah.
And that was the last time he had seen and spent any real time with Marty.
Yeah. Well, there gets to be a point. I talk about courage to me, and this is not a political thing. I think everybody chooses how they handle, Nancy Reagan handled Ronald Reagan's, Alzheimer's condition very privately and secretly. She did not make a public notice about this type of thing. Glenn Campbell's family trotted him out on stage and let him make a few blunders, but do the thing that he loved to do the most and exposed people to the disease, which I think is courageous. But everyone handles it differently because it's such a painful situation. And nobody would, they said that when they had a birthday party, the last birthday party for Ronald Reagan that he was able to attend socially, the press was told, please don't write about this event. There were a few members in the press who years and years and years after the event stated that he didn't even know why he was being honored. He didn't even realize he had been president of the United States. So it's, just a tough thing. And as a Browns fan, I really, even though I used to curse, Not the defense. No, Marty, do something more aggressive. The fact is, coaches are the way coaches are. And I just hope that our Browns, and again, would JJ Watt's salary be too much? And the answer is, look, if he ends up in Pittsburgh has no salary cap whatsoever. They're the team with the worst position of salary cap. The question falls into JJ Watt's corner. If the salary is too much for Cleveland, it's too much for Cleveland. You got to make an aggressive play for him. But if somebody just, drops a ton of money on the guy to go there at 32 years of age with his recent medical history, then I guess you can't get him. But to write him off because analytically he's 32 and has only played in 24 of the last 48 games and he suffered injuries, that would be premature. He might have 2 really good seasons left in him. And by that time, you might be able to establish other players in free agency on your defensive line so that when JJ's done playing, you got somebody to fill the shoes. To go another year without a pass rush would be criminal because it would really hurt the mentality and the focus of the offensive group. They'll start thinking that they have to score 38 every week just to have a chance to win. And it's I see the talk about Les Levine too. And I watched his Christmas show from December 25th, and there were no signs that his death was imminent, but these things, the insidious nature of diabetes, to go along with Parkinson's, obviously was enough to do him in. And it's sad to see people come and go like this. It really is. And, and this is what it boils down to. If you believe that getting 1 or 2 good seasons out of Watt, it would be worth it, then you have to spend the money, don't you? If you honestly believe that he can't help the team at all, then pass him by. But I say you'd be brain damaged if you did that. But if that's what your belief is and you're sticking to your guns, that's what it is. But I believe that just getting out of Houston right now is a tonic. That's got to be something that's like, and the way he'd be welcomed in Cleveland, holy moly. I mean, there's one team in the league that needs him. We're the team. There are lots of teams who can use him, but there's one that really needs him. Because Myles Garrett cannot do this by himself, and we're going to burn him out. He's not going to want to stay in Cleveland any more than Deshaun Watson and JJ want to stay in Houston. Not going to want to stay because if they don't give him help, if the other 3 guys on the defensive front don't penetrate and don't do anything, then he's got to break his balls every play, and he's going to get his 13, 14 sacks in a season, and it's not going to mean anything. I mean, and if you don't
you're not. I got to
wait. You can pressure Patrick Mahomes. We know that. We watched the Super Bowl. It can be done. You can win football games that way. Go ahead.
I got to address Bob Peters here. Richard Sherman. You're not getting Richard Sherman from Seattle. You're getting beat up, broken down Richard Sherman. With would you buy a 4-wheel car with 3 wheels and a square block on it? No, you wouldn't.
Well, and for Bob, the problem with Sherman is that Sherman is a lightning rod for problems, and I do wonder at some point if there's something wrong with him up here. Because he's not stable. He said bad things about the Browns organization in the past. I don't think he wants to come to Cleveland anyway. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Raiders want him. He would be a typical pick for the Raiders with their still the image of Al Davis looming over of the evil Darth Vader, empire, the Raiders franchise. That's where I'd see him going. I don't know that he's an answer. He's further down the road than JJ Watt is as far as physical is concerned. And losing speed is not a good thing for a defensive secondary guy. And I'm glad that you clarified yourself here, Greg. I was going to jump on this and go, no. I mean, by the time we got Shaq, I think Shaq could barely dunk the ball anymore. I say that Watt still has skills. It's just how many games can he give you? Yeah. Yeah, and this pretty well says it, Timmy. Yeah. So, but you scour, the wires for players who might be able to help you. You try to find.
Patrick Peterson might be available if you want another backup cornerback, but as far as being on Ward's level, probably not going to happen.
Yeah. It's now I want to kind of change direction a little bit because and this is going to be a good opportunity for Stephanie A. Smith to get off the sidelines and get into the game. I would say that most people don't know very much about Valparaiso University in Indiana. Valpo, as they're called, is not a major collegiate basketball playing team. It seems to me they had a run a number of years ago, didn't they? With the father and son coach and player was, I believe, Bryce somebody. At any rate, Valpo has made of its own volition a change in their mascot and their team name. And the reason cited, the student senate brought this up for a vote and passed this, and then the faculty senate approved it. The Valparaiso Crusaders nickname and mascot. All right. Now, I'm going to show you the mascot because I can share my screen with you. And this is what they decided to do away with. And let's see if we can get this up here right quick. All right, here we go. All right. Are we sharing this?
I can see it.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
A brown and yellow knight.
That's correct. That's who he is. That's what he is. And that is, and he's a crusader. The youth council student body brought this up, and their reason for wanting to change this whole thing, and I can get this off the screen right now because you don't really, need that. You just got the visual. I'll read their reasoning. The negative connotation and violence associated with the Crusader imagery are not reflective of Valpo's mission and values, which promote a welcoming and inclusive community. Interim President Colette Irwin-Knott said via the AP, "This is the decision that best reflects our values and community." The Indiana University announced that it was ditching the Crusaders' nickname, mascot, and logos, something that had been adopted and embraced by various hate groups throughout history. All right.
You gotta be kidding me.
No. I just showed you the mascot. The Crusaders, by the way,
I agree. The colors are an eyesore, but what the fuck? Seriously?
I'm not. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. You can go on and you can check on your internet right now. Valpo has just said that historically the Crusades were, from the 11th.
They were a response to fucking Muslim invasions and taking over of fucking Europe. What the hell?
1100s to 1492, in essence, the prime years of the Crusades. And the
Oh
Crusades,
my god.
also known in instances as the Holy War, it cost a lot of people their lives, not just Muslims. There were people who were condemned to death in, the contemporary world who were brilliant people who were put to death because
The Moor invasions of Spain and France were, just as bad, actually far worse.
So I take it that you are stunned by this, Brian.
Yes, if you could see my face, yes, because it's complete fucking moronity.
And now we bring in Stephanie A. Smith. Stephanie.
And now for the woke moment of Moohead Radio.
I disagree with Brian. I say good that they're changing the mascot because you do want something that's inclusive. If you're a private university and you're trying to attract different types of students. I read by one student who was a Muslim that said he was ashamed to say that he went to that university because of that mascot. Now, other schools have changed that mascot.
For being a Muslim.
I'm sure that he would disagree. What institution wants to sit up there and side with one side that could be seen as being oppressive to someone else? Who wants to do that?
Oppressive to someone else. Would that include throwing gays off of rooftops for a spectator sport?
That would include throwing gays. That would be oppressive.
Would that include?
Who has a mascot for that, though?
Who has a mascot for that?
I mean, you're bringing up people who are hateful towards gays. I mean, who has a mascot that can be perceived as being hateful towards gays?
Well, it's a crescent moon with a star. That's the Muslim symbol. So,
are all Muslims? Do all Muslims feel that way?
I don't know, but they don't condemn it. They also don't condemn the open slave trade that goes on.
There's a lot of Christians that are against gays too. I'm just saying. But back to the subject at hand.
We don't throw them off the fucking rooftops of second-story buildings. We don't behead people in the town square.
Well, Crusaders did that.
When I saw the story, I was like holding my head, and it's like, I remember when I was in college, and I went through, musically we go through different tastes. I went from being a top 40 kid to going to college and becoming like a European rock, progressive rock guy. And then I had my jazz phase, and the old time jazz band was the Jazz Crusaders. And I didn't think, holy mother of God, they're all gonna grab swords and run me through. I never got from the word crusader a bad connotation, because there have been crusaders for causes that we've all agreed with, or some of us have agreed with, whether it was being a crusader activist for people who were blind or deaf or handicapped, or I'm sorry, disabled. The word game just keeps getting more and more peculiar to me. And I suppose if the university and the student body said, okay, this is what we want to do, it's not like Valpo basketball is on the map as it is, but it is a little bit blood chilling to think that all of the words, and then I started thinking about, the names of NFL teams, the Lions killed the Christians. That was the spectator sport, and the Detroit Lions. Not good. Not good for me. All right. I mean, I can name you a bunch of NFL franchises, the Dallas Cowboys, the Cowboys slaughtered the Native Americans. I don't think that's a good nickname. I don't like that. Now, it was one thing in my mind when Milwaukee moved to Atlanta and they brought the Braves name with them, and they ended up hiring a guy, a partial Native American, and named him Chief Nakahoma. Every time they hit a home run, he would come sliding down a pole or something and doing a native war dance. That was a little bit pathetic. And Florida State fans going, whale, like they, tomahawking people. I thought maybe that would be insulting, But what is insulting about
Bobby Bowden made a deal with the Seminole tribe to be able to use the likeness and the spear throwing at the beginning of the games. So,
but I could see why somebody might be upset about that. I can't understand for the life of me how the word crusader, just because a bunch of white supremacist morons decided to adopt a word, that they're going to destroy a word from the English language because these assholes make it into a hate term.
I don't think that the name itself is the hateful part of it. I think when you combine that with the imagery of the mascot, then it becomes problematic because you cannot help but to think about the Crusades.
I see knights, and I think just like Rick did, the knights who say, me.
He wants a strawberry.
Yeah. A strawberry. Yes, exactly. I don't think of knight as, I think of Knights of the Round Table, and they're honorable, and I don't,
When you see a depiction of a knight and you see the word Crusaders, do you then think about the Crusades? Or you just think about hilarious movies you watched in the past?
No. The fact of the matter is when I hear the word crusade, it has a meaning. It had a meaning.
Okay, let me ask Stephanie A. this. If the Spartans were bad people for throwing babies off of a cliff, how can Michigan State get away with calling themselves the Spartans?
If enough people complain about it, they'll change it.
Now, is their mascot named Spartacus?
Spartacus? I don't think so.
Have you seen the mascot for Michigan State?
Yes, they call him Sparty.
Uh-huh. And what is he a cartoon of?
Spartacus.
Leonidas, I think.
Spartacus.
No, he's dressed more like the guys from 300.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is
Spartacus was actually Greek.
Well, he took it up the ass. So what? Some people like that kind of thing. I don't know. I guess my whole perspective is I can look at, all kinds of team names and say, well, that's there's questionable kinds of stuff here. And there is a way of interpreting these things that are, and I went back and I was talking to Stephanie A. before the program that Aunt Jemima finally came up with a new name for its product. I'm not kidding.
That pearl thing.
What was the name, Stephanie? Do you remember?
Something pearl.
Pearl something.
Yeah. And
it's going to take a while for that one to sink in.
Yeah.
I'm sure people that love pancakes will remember.
Somebody in the chat room look this up. What is the new name for Aunt Jemima? It's Pearl Mill.
Pearl Mills or
Pearl Millings something.
Yeah, the Pearl Milling Company, like the oil drilling company. I don't know. But what was funny about it is first of all, it said, same great taste as Aunt Jemima, right on the box. And it's like, oh, great. I thought it's marketing, you see, it's marketing. So that's the first thing that makes me scratch my head. But the other thing that really killed me, Stephanie A., is that why Pearl? Pearl Bailey was a large black woman, and they named their product after another large black woman. Pearl Bailey.
It's not, the company's not called Pearl Bailey Pancakes, and it doesn't depict a mammy from slavery times, a stereotypical role right there on the box. So there's a difference between Pearl Millings Company or whatever the fuck the name is and that.
Pearl Bailey. I don't know, man.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but to me, it is a weird situation and time that we're living in. When
I mean, but what it boils down to is that university is a private university. If they decide that that imagery does not reflect their brand, then they have every right to go ahead and change that.
Oh, sure. And, but don't put that it's got the same great taste as Aunt Jemima, because Aunt Jemima doesn't exist.
I'm talking about the sports team now, the college that changed from the Crusaders.
Oh, well, I mean, again, not going to be the Crusaders ever again. But people will still, in the name of God, kill people. So, I mean, to me, we focus on the wrong target. I mean, if you really, it's a Lutheran college, by the way, Valpo. It's not a Catholic college, but if you really wanted to take a look at the entire Holy Wars syndrome, that would be the Catholic Church. And everybody knows that my view on organized religion is rather dim, not religion itself. And I want to point out that this is not a belief in God or a non-belief in God, but organized religion I have a problem with, because back then they killed people. They killed Galileo. They killed forward-thinking scientific people. And I don't need to go back to the Crusades.
Inquisition, what a sin.
Yeah, right. Mel Brooks. I don't honestly. I don't have to go back to 1100 to have a problem with the Catholic Church. I have a problem with when Pope Pius gets behind Adolf Hitler in the Second World War. I got a problem with them. When they were killing 6 million Jews, I have a problem with the Catholic Church right there in the 20th century. I don't need to go back all the way to 1100. The fact is, if religion today is still a force of hate, if organized religion is telling people that it's okay to bomb abortion clinics, then it's a problem. If we go away from science and we only want to preach creationism, we got a problem, because that's why Galileo was killed. You can't focus on imagery. It's what's inside people's heads, for God's sakes. And until that changes, man, I don't know. I don't know.
How about blowing up markets and schools and buses?
Look,
With
I mean,
strapping
right
bombs to babies.
Yeah, we are in a real harmful place, and we're attacking a cartoon mascot.
If a sports team had the mascot, the Popes, and they had them, and they had a mascot of the Pope running around out there on the field, would you have a problem with that? Just curious. There's no point there. Just curious.
Well, I mean, why would the team be named the Popes?
Because they're using the Pope as a mascot. If they had somebody dressed as the Pope and the big funny hat and all that running around on the field, would that be okay?
No, the Catholics don't do that.
Yeah, and I don't know.
And if they did do that, it would be really goddamn funny.
Somebody would find
it would
offense
be
in that.
entertainment value.
But again, it's the acts of people, and I don't want for people to say that the word crusader automatically conjures death, because there have been crusaders for causes throughout history that did things for the betterment of people. I just don't want to just slam words. And if
does that mean we can't call Batman the Cape Crusader anymore?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, They could have changed the mascot and continued calling themselves the Crusaders, right?
There's been another school did that.
What they
Decided
themselves.
they called themselves the Crusader, but they changed from the knight imagery, and I don't remember what school that was or what imagery they use now, but they did switch from a knight, but they are still the Crusaders.
So, I mean, I don't understand. They got rid of both things. So they equally vilified the image of the knight and the word Crusader. They equally villainized. And I guess that's where I have a problem with it all, because had they just remained the Valpo Crusaders and they just decided to have a mascot who was a caped Crusader, you know?
They also found it problematic that certain hate groups have latched on to that word. And they don't want to be associated with that.
You know what they latched on to make America great again. So, I mean, we can't say that now? I mean...
No, according to the Democrats, that's a fucking hate crime now.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think we all want to make America great again. We have different ideas how to go about doing it, but the words themselves carry no threats. It's the people who use these expressions in some instances that are a problem. But
how about just make America great? I don't necessarily want to go back into the past.
Well, I mean, I don't see how Valpo brings us into the past unless you visited the campus.
Oh, I'm talking about the term "make America great again." That implies that at some point in the past, America was great. What was that? The 50s, when there were white and colored drinking fountains? When was America great for Black people? I don't want to go back in time. I'll stay right here.
How about from 1890 to about 1920?
Are you talking about in the United States of America?
Yes.
Okay.
Back
and then what happened?
There was an actual Black middle class that consisted of about, I don't know, 20% of America. Well, and guess what happened? Democrat policies happened. Then the Great Depression and the New Deal. And who was excluded from the New Deal? Oh, jobs held by Black people. Why? Because we had a capitulator in the White House, in FDR.
Know what? My grandparents lived through the 1920s, and hell no, I don't want to go back to the 1920s. I don't want to experience the discrimination that they experienced. I don't want my house bombed by the KKK like their house was bombed by the KKK. Hell no, I don't want to go back. America has never been greater than it is right now, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Well, you're smoking crack.
Drugs are bad, okay? I don't do crack. Crack is whack.
Or weed.
No weed.
Oh, well, then you're dipping into Moohead's pain pill stash. Then I don't know what's going on.
Well, the thing that
if you think that now is the best time in American history,
I'm saying for me, I don't want to go back. I'm sure for some people, the Deep South back in the 1920s was the place to be. But for me personally, no.
I can honestly tell you that right now, in my estimation, and again, like I say, I'm going on 64 years of age. That means I was born in 57. All right. And so I didn't have any real cognizance of the post-Korean War suburban boom. But I was at least very socially aware during the Vietnam War and thereafter. My political views from Lyndon Johnson moving forward to Richard Nixon and then moving forward beyond that, pretty clear in my head. This is the worst time that I've ever lived in. I mean, from a standpoint of social separation and social distancing is a term they use for COVID, but it couldn't be more true than society right now. And when you were 11 years old, you only had to worry about Watts and Detroit. Now you got to worry about the entire freaking country going up in flames. Well, what I worry about is a legal system that is confused beyond belief, that it doesn't know which way to turn. It's political people being appointed to judicial positions and police officers who, do things and get nothing as far as any kind of sentence whatsoever, or people who are burning down innocent people's businesses and aren't rounded up and thrown into jail right then and there, or people who stormed the nation's capital at the behest of the former president. This is not making America
Didn't
better.
happen.
It's what?
Didn't happen.
Yeah, okay, but nothing happened in your group of thinking.
No, I'm saying he didn't fucking incite anything. Because
right,
if you listen to his exact goddamn quote, it says peacefully in it. That doesn't mean
after the break.
that doesn't mean that punch windows out with hammers or anything like that.
Well, we could argue this all day, and that's what Congress is wasting its time on right now. To me, the real problem is you got people walking the streets who are so incredibly divided that it's the hardest time. It's the hardest time that I've lived through, and it's challenged many of my personal friendships with people who disagree with the way I feel. I disagree with the way they feel, and trying to put that aside to keep friendships alive. It's a trying thing, and that's the sad part of all this. That's a sad part.
Well, Mark, I've been told that I'm harder on my friends than I am my enemies. So, but we will go at it, but we can still sit back and laugh about whatever. And
no, I'm a firm believer in that you move forward and you do the best you can with what you've got. And what I guess to tie it all together in a neat little package is that we only have X amount of time on Earth to do whatever it is that we're going to do, and we don't know how long we're going to get. And I hope people realize that things can come to an end for all of us very quickly, and we should kind of get right with the way we feel about things and not abandon friends and family. There are families that are torn apart over these policy differences and political differences, and it should never come to that. It should never come to that. And you can put things aside, you can have strong beliefs, but when people start, and I think this all started out, the greatest cancel culture of all, because they're all cancel cultures when they're extremists, is I'm going to unfriend this person. I mean, how can you go back 20, 30, 40, 50 years with somebody and hit a button and unfriend them? Only in today's America. And it's unfortunate because you don't abandon people. You don't do that. If you like something about somebody, you don't have to like everything about them. But to abandon people, I'm going to just hit a button and they're gone, and I never have to see or hear them again. But first I'm going to write them a really nasty tweet, and then I'm going to ban them. That's where we are. At any rate, we're 9 after 7. But I hope if you walk away from this program with one thing, go after, make an effort. Let the fans know that we're not the fucking Cleveland Indians, man, that we're trying to take that next step. Because if you don't, and if you hand him a defensive line that is weakened from last year, you're going to destroy the goose that lays the golden egg. And then you're going to have...
And pay attention to the teams that are real close to their salary caps in 2020 and what the new salary cap's going to be in 2021, because there could be a lot of high-priced talent that's suddenly out the door.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. Hey, it's the weekend coming up, folks. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll be back with you on Monday.
Enjoy President's Day.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll jump in on Monday and see what's happening, if anything is going on with the Cleveland Browns. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.